please.
Clifton,
Here.
Fitch, here, Stansel. Here.
All present. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. All right, Mitch, give us an update.
Item 1, site safety security. Trying to clean things up around site, get some stuff we don't need out of here. So we can start wrapping things up.
Thanks for weed eating everything.
Anything from the owner's perspective? Progress update, stone ramps, be about 95 to 98% complete by the end of this week.
Do you know, is there any other stone that needs to be ordered or anything? Do we have everything?
I think there's at the top where the ramp comes into the
Building.
slab.
Yep.
There's a couple pieces he had to reorder,
Okay.
but other than that.
Are those the ones they were talking about where they didn't order the right size or other sizes were used and then cut, not realizing?
I don't know if they either were made the wrong size or ordered the wrong size. I don't
Are those outside granite corners in? I see they've kind of braced for that, but they're not in.
Yeah, I think they're on site.
Are they? Okay. Is that like one piece, kind of an L-shaped piece that goes
Yeah.
around?
Yeah.
it?
So
They
Jeff's
usually
not-
do
so
those
they're here.
last.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
here.
So what about that, the corner of the ramp that up is butting up against the east side where they didn't cut the groove in there for it to slide in?
Yes, we have to cut that in, and then they'll put a piece of stone just to match the other side.
Okay. How are you guys gonna deal with the crevices there, the gap?
We have a
Let me take
correction. Sure.
Yeah, so there's as you come down the side of the building, sort of different conditions of how you seal to the building edge. The ramp is positioned just off of the most proud one with enough room for expansion. And then as it gets bigger to the building, there's a little piece of stone that gets stuck in there and makes that connection complete.
Okay, because there's a
With the
gap.
expansion on the
There's
side.
a gap, when you
Yep.
look down, there's a gap there right now. You said that's.
That'll get filled.
That'll get filled
Yep.
with,
The bottom of it's part of the portico understructure, and then we'll continue that floor slab out. So it'll
Okay.
get filled up with concrete, and we'll have the slab extend out towards the building.
okay.
And below it will be probably gravel, but,
Okay. I just don't want little.
because it's rubble under there, it's the
Yeah.
structure.
Kids have a tendency to like letting things fall into crevices and
Yeah.
cracks, and I don't want that to become a trash thing. But
Absolutely not.
is it gonna be finished off with concrete, or is there gonna be stone or granite that kind of?
It's concrete across to the building.
Okay,
Ramp goes down, concrete goes over.
okay. And I don't think we've been introduced.
I'm Jimmy
Jimmy
Peters
Peters, and you are,
with OPN Architects.
okay.
You've
Jimmy
been
is-
getting his emails.
Yes, I've never met him in person though.
Well,
so-
neither have we.
Okay.
Let you know.
Thanks for
Nice
coming,
to meet
Jimmy.
you.
Okay, window trim.
Trim, focusing on the 5 courtroom windows right now. Fourth quarter starts next week. And then back to the first floor.
So we're talking about windows, okay. I know Bryholtz has suggested, Greg, that we put some kind of a window cover film on those windows, so we can still see out, but when the public sees in, they won't see those the ceilings that hang down, you know how it is now, looks terrible. Cause you look at that insulation and other stuff. Rick, I know Jimmy, Rick doesn't like that at all. Okay, let's talk about that.
So it's a film that's been suggested by Brian Holes that,
Well, I think we just,
or Greg,
it was mentioned.
yeah.
It was
I-
an issue, so we just said.
I
And then
mentioned
one
it
option.
to
You
Greg,
should
because
see it.
Greg thinks the windows are gorgeous when you stand out, and they are,
Mhm.
but then you look and you see all that junk hanging up above them. So he suggested it, so I suggested it to Rick, but I know you don't like
We're
it.
gonna put blinds back up on those, and if such, then you can pull the blind down
Mhm.
below that more?
But I think you'll still see the stuff from
Well, if you pull-
outside.
No, if you pull the blind halfway down to block it, you shouldn't see it. If the blind goes all the way to the top of the window and then you pull it down, you
You
shouldn't
don't,
see
you're
it.
not gonna be able to see in and see all the insulation above it. Why
No.
would the blind, you think you'll be able to
Well, you have
walk
to
it
go
out?
to the top.
I understand the blind will go to the top.
Yeah, so when it's, if you keep them pulled down halfway or whatever, it's gonna block.
Which we would.
Yeah.
Right.
So you think the blind, will we be able to see through it with the blind?
That seems like the best solution.
I would rather
because
have a
if down the
blind.
road, let's say you guys decide your ceilings are gonna go back up, that gives you,
You got all
you're
the
ready
foam
for
to
that.
deal with, and-
All right, I'm for the blinds.
Yeah,
if
we're gonna have
that's
blinds
better.
anyway,
Are they gonna be blinds or are they gonna be the pull down shades or?
probably
Have
pull
we
on shades like
decided
what we
on
used to
that?
have.
Pull down shades like what we used to.
What we used to
I mean,
have.
I got you guys the bids, but we're not, until the windows are trimmed out, I haven't had to come back to do a final measurement.
Okay.
We're absolutely gonna have to do, as soon as we get them done, because certain people can't see, I can't see my computer
Mm.
without a blind.
Right.
And I know you can't at all,
Mhm.
because this, you just cannot even see the
I
computer.
don't know what happened.
All right, I'm
I
okay
think
with
that, I
blinds.
mean, it's, you know, we have to wait till everything's done, so it's gonna be inconvenient, but I think that's,
I'm
best way
okay,
to
I'd
do it.
rather have blinds than window treatment.
Yeah,
All right,
so,
Film.
who's putting the blinds in? Are you guys are?
We got two different people that's putting in bids for
Okay.
it, but yeah, it'll be an outside vendor.
So, I'm sorry, I'm
I'm Chip.
Chip, so you're with the county? Okay,
He's on
good,
maintenance.
got it. Okay, thanks. I don't think I met you, so.
so did you have other things on the, you wanna talk about the windows there?
well, I will, yeah, I wanna talk about the warranty or surety bond, it doesn't matter, it's a bond, but I'll wait. Windows are good, yeah, go ahead.
I do have a question on the windows though. You said you're focusing on 5 windows right
Yeah,
now?
and the south side of the courtroom,
Uh-huh,
those 5 big ones,
right.
3 in the front and 1 on each side.
We're trying to work around court dates too, we have
Right.
trials.
So, I'm assuming we still haven't touched that window in the judge's chambers yet?
Not yet, no.
Okay, okay. And I know that we're kind of delayed because of court for the next 4 weeks, 4 weeks? Okay. So, how quickly would you, well, we don't know what's behind it, so we don't know how long it's gonna take to, is the window already in there? It's just,
Yeah.
you just have to pull out
Yeah, the
whatever's
window's
behind
there.
it? Okay, do we know what's
There's
behind
pan-
it?
There's wood paneling in front, I don't know what's between the paneling and the window.
So you can't tell from the outside for the window that was put in what's behind it?
Go
Probably
into
could
it.
from a lift, I don't remember when they put it in, what was there? We might be able to get up on a lift and see.
Until you pull the paneling off, you can't
You won't
take
know what's-
measurements to really do
Well, you can't
anything.
take
Yeah, there's not
measurements,
much
but
we can do with
the
it.
reason why I asked the question is because, do we know if it's brick behind there or wood or anything like that? Cause you guys would know once you put the window in, what's there,
Yeah,
if the window's already there.
yeah, I don't think it's brick.
So it won't be as big a job as the other
Investigate
ones
it.
were.
No, no.
Okay.
I hope not. But we can check it out.
Questions what the wall material is behind the jam, or the frame?
Yeah, so on the inside, it's just wood paneling, goes
Yeah.
right across the window. And you replace the window. And then, there was a proposal request to remove the paneling and open up the window.
Yeah.
I think it
The only headache you
Between
might
the
run
paneling.
into would be if the trim wasn't there,
Yeah.
but it's not like those main floor windows that you gotta remove brick or anything.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good to have an idea, so you can have a game plan, so when, you know, the judge is ready, you can hit the ground running without wasting any time.
Yeah.
Do we have a solution yet for, the water stains on the actual window sashes? Have we
We're gonna-
worked out a way to fix that?
We're gonna pick a couple spots to test some more sanding, and then, have OPN review it after we're done, to see what it looks like.
Okay,
We were discussing selecting 2 windows, and if you got time, we could even
Yeah.
walk over and maybe pick those out after this?
Yep.
Pick 2 that have stains on them, and then review it after you guys prep it, and then we'll review it at the end. And just
Is
get
it
you
raw
checkpoints
wood?
there.
It's not been ever stained.
Yeah, it's raw mahogany.
Someone suggested a soda water paste to see if you could lift that out.
I had the guy start on it this
Yeah.
morning. We got heavy grit or light grit sandpaper and try to get it to see what's gonna happen in behind there, so.
If
we-
it
we've
doesn't
already-
come out with that, try some, a heavier steel wool and see if you can lift that out, and then go to a finer and finer.
Yeah, we got multiple things
Yeah.
that we can do with it, so.
My
I
concern
just
is,
was made aware of it today and I looked at it and I think it will be able to, it looks to be surface, looks like we can sand it and then go ahead and stain over it and,
well, we're not doing stain, we're just
Well,
doing the clear.
yeah.
That's my concern, is because if you were doing stain, it'd be easier to hide.
Yeah,
Because we're
well,
doing
it's
clear.
it'll be a clear, so if it's one piece, we'll do the whole piece, you know, so it'll be one piece and it'll all match, it won't be a patch here and a patch there.
Well, right, I understand that, but my point is that we were gonna do clear over the whole entire window.
Right,
And if the water stain is darker, it's gonna come through regardless of what.
right, which I
know
think
clear
is
adds a
right.
little depth to the wood. Have we looked to make sure that there isn't any outside issues? Especially if the windows that do not have the AC units, have we looked to make sure that there's no outside issues that would
Yeah,
cause that water?
we've been going around and we've taken out some of the AC units just to seal around that, saw cut it, or we saw cut for the panel. And, we checked some of the 3rd floor windows and, they're all sealed up well, so.
So do we know, what's causing the water in those windows when they don't have an AC unit nearby?
I don't, Marvin was supposed to send a guy down, I'll check to see where when he's supposed to be here.
Okay,
But
because something's causing it. I mean, the water's getting in for some reason.
Rick wants to set, he called this morning, set a time and date for him to discuss that mechanical engineering upgrade, so we can maybe get rid of these. So he's talked about that. They've got, evidently you've worked this out with someone, mechanical engineers.
Well, though, that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
I know, but he wants to set a date so we can maybe eliminate.
Let's do that at the end of here, let's get to the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah, but
Just so
that's a
we-
separate issue, because if the windows are not sealed properly, it doesn't matter, because that means water's coming in some way that's causing these water stains. I'd like to make sure that is rectified, because there's 2 issues going on. There's the AC unit in the windows that was allowing water penetration, and then the windows that do not have AC units anywhere nearby are still showing water stains, so there's obviously some water penetration there. How do you guys test for that, to figure that out?
I think getting Marvin out here to look at it's a
And
great
Marvin has-
idea,
okay.
since it is, I mean, they shipped it, the only thing weird about it is you got the side panels that, now you got 2 people building on it, but if it's their product, they should be able to come and look at it and understand if there's a defect or something, or if it's done in a way that they didn't anticipate to be filled in or something.
Okay. Is the fact that the windows are trimmed, most of them are trimmed out, is that gonna cause an issue for them figuring out what the issue is, do you think?
I don't think so, because the trim sits back from the jam, so I think they'll be able to tell from the unit itself.
Okay,
if it's a window issue, it should either be the sash or it should be the stiles on the side, and they can take the sash out and the stiles, they can replace them and put them back in.
okay.
Sounds like that's the
I'd,
solution on that, let's get Marvin to.
If I can find out what windows them are, I just started last week here, so, if I can find them windows, I can take a look at it and see if there's
The
something
workers.
obvious of why they're.
And
workers.
what's your name and your title?
I'm Jeff
I'm
Bush,
sorry,
I'm the new
Jeff Bush.
superintendent on site to
Okay,
try to,
Jeff.
Bush.
Bush,
Bush.
BUSH,
Jeff.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right, those are my questions on the windows, so.
Dome windows, just have some minor touch-ups, and then, gotta get the painter back down here to, touch up some of the glazing. And then I'd like to down here to inspect.
Okay.
The way it's been going with the site is just so wet, and moving that lift around is a real pain, just cause it gets stuck really easy.
Yeah,
It's so heavy, so I'd like to get one quadrant done.
and then have a
Check
check.
it, have it check it, and then we can move it,
Yeah,
be done,
okay.
so. I'll keep you
What's
in loop.
the general time frame on that? Is that on here?
Trying to get the painter down here, so possibly later this week, but
Okay.
I'll give you a day or two notice.
Yeah, let me know. Let me and Rick both know.
Yep. Window exteriors, as I said, we've been removing and reinstalling some of the AC units to touch up that saw, that raw edge. And some of them already had paint on them, so.
Do you know when those will be done, do you think?
Probably this week, I think, the AC units.
AC units, yeah. Yeah, I got guys working on them.
Okay.
We pulled a couple out to see what the issue was, and they've been caulked in solid on the outside. The inside, I didn't think it got sealed up, so we got clear silicone to where it's not that noticeable, you know, not an eyesore,
Okay.
and, we're working on it.
So, in Andrew's office, when it's 110 up there and he can't open a window, and he had that air conditioner on, because it was so miserable, that water was leaking in really kind of the condensation from the air conditioner itself. So why will that caulking it, is that still gonna have condensation all over the windowsill?
It also will prevent blowing, when they had all that smell where it basically was blowing stuff back through the air conditioning unit.
Even the caulking, you think that will stop that?
No.
No, it's
No,
going through
it
the-
won't. So we're still gonna have water coming in through that.
And we don't have the ability to cover them on the second or third windows. So, yeah, I think that's still gonna be an issue. What we might wanna do is figure
And
out.
we'll
a way-
talk about that, upgrading.
Well, yeah, but in the meantime, we're gonna have to figure out how to protect the inside from that. Either, I don't know, cover it, do a pan, I have no idea what the best answer is.
But it's too hot. I know you shouldn't turn an air conditioner on when it's 30 below, that doesn't make sense, but they did. And that water just gushed in there, so even if we cover it on the inside,
We're talking about solutions for that. so-
yeah, well,
so
Well, that's a
this-
long-term
That's this other,
solution.
that's this other, well, there's also some interim solutions that we're
Right,
talking
that's,
about.
oh,
that's what we're talking
Let's
about.
talk about this one, we're talking about something that's not even anything to do with this project.
well, it does because this is causing water stains, so that it kinda does have stuff to do with this project. So we can talk about it later if you want to,
But
that's
we're
fine.
talking about fixing the HVAC up there, which is not really part of this.
I was simply asking if it's gonna solve it, and I don't think it will,
I
just
don't
by
think it will
caulking
either.
it.
The cop probably
We'll
won't.
start part of it, a little bit, but the issue Diane was talking about, Phil, was that the difference in temperature between the outside and the inside
I
is
understand that,
causing
and that's part of the
condensation
HVAC
and
conversation that we're gonna schedule later, whether we do a major HVAC situation or the interim one that we talked about as well. Which would eliminate
Yes.
having to run air conditioners in the middle of winter.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. The concern I have is this is not gonna be able, even if we talk about it, it's not gonna solve overnight, and it's probably not gonna solve before the next winter. So my question is, in the interim, we need ideas on how to protect the inside until we change how we're doing things internally. So I
So
wanna
if you
figure out
can't
how to
cover them on the
protect it.
outside, maybe you cover them on the inside to keep the unit, keep it inside the unit.
But I don't think that will work because it's too hot for him,
So
and he's
is
gotta
there a
have
way
some
you guys can,
alternative.
knowing this, is there a way you can kind of put your heads together and figure out how going forward we can prevent condensation in water and freezing and refreezing until we change internally how we can protect our, I mean, this is good, nice wood, expensive windows. I'd like to figure out how we can protect that. So if you guys can put your, obviously it's not a concern right now, because we're not in the winter, but if you can put your heads together and maybe come up with a solution so we have something interim to protect the beautiful wood that we just put in.
From the air conditioning units problem,
Yes.
Mhm.
where, and, okay.
Yeah, cause you're,
What was
you're handling potential leakage and that's great. But there's a secondary issue where we had the blowing wind blew stuff in through the air conditioning unit, cause it's not covered obviously on the third and second floor. And
Right.
also, because it's hot up there, people use the air conditioning unit, so then all the condensation, rather than dripping outside, it went inside and froze. So, and then we have water issues, so there's a way you guys can figure out if there's something we can do to protect those units or protect the innards.
The old windows, the units came out in the fall, so then when it got too hot up there, they could slide the windows open. These new windows don't open, so he was the issue up there last year.
Yeah,
I see.
One
yeah,
thing
they
I
were
think
coming
is-
to work in shorts and t-shirts, and even then they were hot, so.
It was terrible.
I wanna make sure it's not miserable for them, while at the same time protecting our
So is
our
there
very
also just
expensive investment.
the north side,
Andrew's
just a
office is
few
the
on the north
worst.
side where the
Like I
north
said, even
wind's coming through?
when the
or
window units
It just
weren't running, Mother Nature's forcing snow
You
through
could
on
see the
forcing
stuff
stuff,
coming
yeah.
out of the air
Yeah.
conditioner.
So,
cover them on the insides, don't land.
And you could have that on any one, depending on the wind direction, or
Right.
actuality.
right, so, yeah, so if you guys can think about that as something, cause obviously, any solution we do is not gonna be done probably for the winter, so that would be appreciated.
What's the status of this dome window sills, the two that we're gonna get fabricated?
We're gonna start that probably after we finish these AC units. I actually noticed there might be another one on the west side. If you have time to look at that.
Yeah, let's take a walk after this, we can look at windows.
Kinda hard to know where to start and stop when you start getting
It
into
is.
this.
Yeah,
We're still having some water, coming up there in the dome. I know Rick had said that, you know, we should expect some, but, we shouldn't be having any, and very minimal. It should not be enough to pool, so I'm wondering if we can have another look-see at that to figure out where that water's coming from.
They're not done.
But
Well, it's nothing from this is from the prior project back in,
this isn't coming in the areas of the
it's got
windows.
nothing to do with this
It's
project. but
it's
don't
the
see.
other areas, so maybe after those windows are in, we can have another look-see at that, to figure out where the leakage is coming from. Because it shouldn't be leaking, what was it, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when we did the dome?
I don't
For
know.
the wait, for,
It was 08, so, yeah, so that's concerning to me. But again, to Phil's point, you know, we'll wait till the windows are done before we can determine where that's coming from.
Who knows, or could show like where those puddles are in the dome level?
chipping a bit.
Chip can show you. I don't agree with Rick on this at all. I just think it's unacceptable to have any water enter a building. That he said it's natural to have some. I worked for soil and water. You mitigate. You never do that. Water, you don't want water to enter where you don't want it to enter. So I don't know that I buy that.
Well, I mean, I'm just give some outside perspective or context. I'm working at the Capitol, and that is gonna have water come in at the end of our work there. But there's ways pans to get it out. There's condensated catchment areas, because when you get up and you have single, sheet metal areas, you're gonna have temperature swings in the building. You're gonna get condensate. You're gonna get wind-driven rain. Especially if you have belt areas or louvered areas where stuff can get in. So there is a level of like just a resilient approach of like, where is water coming in and how do we get it back out before it causes damage? And that might be another way to
Right.
think about it.
Yeah, okay.
That's
A
acceptable.
resilient approach versus
I
we
would
stop it
accept
all,
that.
Well,
but
you're
we're gonna
talking
handle
sheet
it,
metal
manage
and
it.
single pane windows, you're gonna have
Yeah.
condensation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you could do a catch pan, what you're saying, and we catch that, and then so it doesn't go anywhere else. I'm for that, so we'll build like a small.
There could be, yeah, and it would be
I'm
sort
not
of unique to
comfortable
what
with-
you guys have here condition wise.
Yeah, I'm
haven't been
uncomfortable with the pooling, because that water's sitting and not going anywhere isn't good for resiliency of the structure,
Yeah.
so.
nothing new there. 5 change requests, PR 15 for the basement door. I had that all put together. I was just waiting for the lead time, and she sent me that this morning, so
So you'll have the price ready for our next meeting?
yeah, I'll send it over today or tomorrow.
Basement door, is that which door is that?
So that door at the bottom of the ramp to replace that frame.
Okay.
Do you want, probably get that approved sooner rather than later, you see any surprises on it? I'm thinking if we could get it on the agenda for next Tuesday, it'd be nice to get that approved.
Yeah. I
Are you
mean,
gonna
I'll
have
send
trouble
it
with the
over.
stone? Is that gonna be hard when you tear that out?
I mean, they'll make the frame slightly smaller, so maybe a little bit.
We're not gonna cut into the stone
I know,
like that.
I just think it seems like when something can go wrong.
Yeah, it
does.
will, find a way,
Yeah, seems like it.
yeah.
PR 17 cheek walls, so kind of in the middle of pricing that. Had a couple questions for the structural engineer. I think he's working through that. I'm just kind of concerned with keeping everything that's already there in place while we dig a hole and pour a foundation, so.
Yeah, that one's a tricky one, you know, we have an opportunity, because we removed that rubble that was underneath those caps. We were intending just to do the caps on
Right.
this project, you
Yeah.
know? And now we're looking at this and going, is there a missed opportunity here that we ought to make this better? And obviously, there'll be a price tag associated with that. And this has, I mean, the cheek walls and the stair have moved freely, ever since the beginning, which is probably why some of the capstone issues. So we're trying to figure out if there's a way to make this better and give that.
And you really, until you start excavating, you really don't know what you're gonna find down there.
That's right, yeah. And so we actually reviewed it with a structural engineer, and I'd like to get you guys to probe it underneath the portico to see if those porticos have footings. We believe they probably do. If they don't, then we definitely cannot dig near them, and we'll change our tack a little bit on that PR.
Okay.
So if you guys can probe underneath the portico columns there to see what kind of footing you're hitting, that'd be helpful information, and maybe we can talk a little on site about it.
Because then you can go down to that footing from the portico and tie into that.
It'd be nice to tie into something that's there, but we also don't wanna dig there if there's no footing, cause then there's, yeah, we need some support around that area.
Understood.
The old drawings aren't always exactly as, you know.
I mean, they
as ours.
didn't follow maybe?
You know, just as,
Really.
never know what you're gonna find, an adventure.
Just based on all the other foundations we found, seems to be just a lot of stacked
Rubble.
stone and rubble, so we're just nervous about digging around those till we know what's there. PR 18 basement cave tuck pointing, I'll have that this week. By state came down and looked at that last week, so.
They thought it was still fine though, didn't they? So that's more of an aesthetic thing if we tuck point those?
More of a longevity.
Are you talking in the,
Yeah.
inside the, Rick talked about that this morning, they kind of,
Not cosmetic, yeah.
he was thinking because we've covered it now, it's way more dry.
Okay.
And so it is maybe just needs tuck pointed, but it
Okay.
was because of the dryness, and it was always, like you've said before, kind of damp in there. Now it's really dry, so it might be,
Well, where's the wetness coming from now, though?
there isn't
That
any
area
wetness
is
in,
wetness.
well, that was that downspout, under the portico, that was that downspout that the engineer, the
That's a little bit of a
electricians
change
left
because
on.
the last meeting we had, Rick didn't think it was necessary.
Yeah, well, they're pricing the tuck pointing though, right?
Yeah.
So you guys must have determined, I think it's necessary, but I'm not the
I guess
expert.
personally, I see a lot of big open joints
I
in
do
that,
too.
and I think it would be a good thing just from an integrity standpoint to get those filled up.
Yeah,
Just because there's a it did look drier,
Yeah.
but there was deeper voids that
Yes.
you could get back into, and I think that's what you're trying to.
And we're not
Yeah.
heating the ramp yet, so you're gonna throw some more elements into that.
and
once we
that's
start
what he
doing
talked
that.
about this morning, so we probably do need to re-tuck point it.
So did we have an engineer come out and look at it?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, structural, he did.
Yeah, breaker
And they
roads
said
and
it's
stuff.
okay?
No, Raker Road said, you know, we'd recommend tuck pointing this as
Yeah.
well. This is a good route.
But from an engineering structural standpoint, with all that extra weight on top of it, there's no issue, engineering issue?
No,
at
we're
all?
worried about bricks starting to fall out, integrity of a brick structure in that geometry. We don't wanna start losing stuff from below. The way it's tied in above doesn't provide additional stress there.
No.
I guess
Okay.
is maybe the best way to answer that.
But the tuck pointing would keep the bricks secure,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
the structure is not impacted.
and it's probably never been tuck pointed ever since it built it.
Yeah, I
Which-
mean, and if it had been wet previously because of the topping, damage that we had there, it can take a really long time for structures to get water out. It can be moving out for, you know, in plaster walls, it's like years, you know,
Mhm.
still, water's still coming out, it seems, but,
Okay.
I think, from an integrity standpoint, it would be good to, get that tuck pointed, but the way that the ramp ties in and everything else does not put additional load on it or anything like that,
Okay.
so.
As far as new business, we have the mock-up ready for the traffic coding for you to look in.
Okay,
If you're ready.
today,
Yeah.
okay.
The railings are all supposed to ship this week, so.
They're bronze, aren't they? Are they bronze?
I think they're brass, actually.
Brass?
Brass? Or-
It's livers, so it's bronze, isn't it? Yeah.
I think
And
it's
it's been a
bronze.
while since I looked at that, but.
They're shipping to our yard, so I don't want them down here quite yet.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
I guess, just touching base with Rick too and discussing, I didn't know if there was a good path forward or idea on what we're doing with the storm chambers. As far as, do you want us to do a test, whether rather informal or formal? There's, you know, sort of different ways of doing that, or just, we kind of have a sense that it drains at about the rate that the soil perked previously, which is okay, not great, you know, but we have capacity for this big storm event. So the question is do we want to do any testing to see about, should we go a step further or not?
So you would like run X gallons of water in there?
The informal test is, yeah, like you guys just fill it full of water. You know, obviously don't do it when you have rains, do it in a dry month after it's been dry for a while. And then fill it and see how long it takes to empty. And then, you know, the formal route is more of an engineer supervising a test that does something like that. I mean, even from the informal standpoint, you could just, after a rain, observe it. Take a measurement, and then before and after the rain, and see what it's discharging at without doing anything. That might be a good way to kind of understand what you're working with.
Well, we've had a lot of rain and we've had no water in it, so, Rick
It's
had
not a good
mentioned.
time to test right now.
Yeah, Rick had mentioned that in that holding tank or whatever you call it, that, is there something that was left out there?
The back
Now-
slope.
So,
Oh,
yeah,
the
so
backflow
On
preventer.
that
where
back.
where the pipe ties into that intake at the street, right by that parking spot, the way so there's some angles in there, metal or steel angles that support the grate, and the way those steel angles sit, there's not room for a backflow preventer to open up. So that's why they didn't put it in, but.
Can you go further back up in the PVC and put it in?
Well, that's what we talked about.
Even on the other side of the sidewalk from.
He talked about putting it in, so if you look at the chambers, on the north side of the chambers, there's a manhole. And then on the south side, there's also another manhole. And my site contractor said he could try to put one on the south side manhole, where it comes out of the chambers. Put some kind of flap there. So we were going back and forth yesterday with the civil engineer, and I'm gonna try to set up a phone call civil engineer and my site contractor just talk through how he would do it and make sure
So
civil
that would at
engineer's
least keep
okay
any
with that.
backflow
Yeah.
into,
Yeah.
within the pipe and not coming back into the chamber.
I wanna do that, I don't want any
Yeah.
water in the basement.
I
Yeah.
like a backflow, and I think since we're in the middle of stuff right now, I'd like to do a test.
Yeah, just run water in it, you don't have to have, you can fill it with water and see.
Go the informal route on the test.
I agree with the informal, it'll
Because
work.
I think since we're in the midst of all this construction, we might as well do it now so we are aware.
Oh, I'm not.
If there's any problems, we can address it. Because we don't want to go through that issue.
We don't want to tear it up when we're done, I guess is what you're saying,
Correct,
right?
yes.
I mean, we could
Yes.
try to take some measurements with the rain that's supposed to come next Saturday, I think, I don't know, we'll have to kind of look at the
Yeah, I don't think those are gonna be very, who
forecast.
knows?
And these are, it's pretty wet right now, so
Yeah.
just so everybody
Yeah,
knows.
the
So
ground
the
is
informal
saturated.
Right,
test,
yeah.
so you're saying the informal test relies on natural rain event, whereas the formal test would be,
Could be,
I mean,
if it's dry for a long time, you could,
Okay.
you know,
but a formal test would be, we bring the water in, we fill it, and then we test it.
either way, even if we had the formal test, I think you're sort of weather dependent, or
Okay.
weather, directed, because if you have a lot of rain
It's gonna be
there,
different.
it's gonna be a different infiltration rate that you're measuring if the ground is saturated with water.
Okay, so what's the,
So we're
is the
trying to get
best
a
way-
zero test at like,
Okay.
if the ground's, you know, sort of dryish, a normal, what we call a normal condition, how fast is this thing gonna drain? Is the test essentially.
So what would be a worst case scenario? We test it when the ground's saturated?
That might give you a worst case scenario, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do we wanna test worst case scenario, guys?
Well, so you're thinking 100-year flood?
Well, you're really not even testing worst case scenario, because in that scenario, your storm sewers are
Yeah.
empty. The worst case scenario, your storm sewers are gonna
Right.
be full in, it's gonna be
Yeah.
coming into that chamber.
Yeah, I think the backflow preventer, you know, definitely, it's in the project, we need to figure out where it
Mhm.
lands.
Oh, we definitely need to do that. I don't wanna be caught
I think that's the
flat-footed
big one.
again, so.
The other thing about the backflow preventer is just, you know, I think we need to get a submittal from you guys on what kind of product we can use, cause we wanna make sure it's serviceable. You know, if we put it at that manhole, that it could be cleared out if it needed to be, you know, we don't want something in line in a pipe underground that you can't get to. So, but I think that's a great opportunity for that backflow preventer, that'll keep water out of our risky point.
Right.
As long as it's before that, I wouldn't go any
Yeah.
further
Right.
that way.
And keep those city storm drains clean.
Yeah,
Those were completely.
yeah,
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 that
those
did-
were really full.
So do you recommend that, we do the test after the backflow is installed then?
Doesn't really matter, cause we're
You're not really testing that,
Right.
what you're testing is the
infiltration of the tank.
infiltration,
Okay.
and you're not gonna have the issue with the backflow in the test environment, because your storm sewers aren't gonna be full.
That's right. Yeah, so I mean, you know, as far as the informal route, testing it, we could test it, you know, here in the spring, but we're gonna see probably worse rates. And then you can, and I don't know if this is chip or if this is Bryholtz, or if you guys work, I don't know how you guys wanna deal with that, but, probably should, if someone's gonna test it, say who's doing that.
I think Reinhold should test it and Chip should be there.
Yeah, we can do that. I would just like to
Cause
know,
you'll probably wanna test it again in the future maybe and understand how that happened, or,
Well, and I'm
He
sure
needs
the
to-
engineering, you know, it's engineered for so many inches of rain in 24 hours, well, how many gallons of water
Right.
is that, so
Yeah.
you can know how many gallons of water to dump into.
I think you're just gonna be measuring a height of water at one point, and then after it rains at another point, and kinda seeing over that time frame what you lose. It's the basics of it.
This
Just
is
treat it
just,
like a perk test, then. right?
Exactly, if you're familiar with, you know, country septic, that's,
That's kind of what we're
so
dealing
that's
with.
what we're dealing with.
so when, country septic, my previous life was we dealt 100 years and 500 years. Because that's what soil and water, 100 years, 500. What is that? What is it here? Is it,
So I know, first off, I am not a civil engineer or architect, so just give me a little grace, disclaimer. But this is all tested out at the 100-year and has capacity for it. Those storm chambers were designed with the capacity for 100-year.
it is 100 year, okay.
And so that was sort of the minimum level. You can as a, you know, you can say, let's have a higher goal, let's have a 500-year goal. Really tough to do at your site with the storm sewage that surrounds your site. Very hard goal to hit, pretty much impossible. We'd be putting ginormous tanks and you guys probably wouldn't like that either. So this was a good middle point that said we're doing the best thing we possibly can with what we got here in terms of infrastructure.
And we didn't have the ability to put 4-inch all around of our building, like you can a home structure. Backfill, put 4-inch all around it so you get no water ever. But we can't do that, like you just said. We don't have the ability to do that.
You gotta push the water somewhere.
Yeah, we gotta push it.
So when do we, for this informal test, when do we start that? We have to wait till it's completely dry,
Whatever you
like
want.
June, or?
You know, we could, what I was saying is you could literally try it now and see what it's like, cause we have a rain event, I think it's supposed to rain this weekend, but it's Iowa, so
Well, you're
who knows?
saturated now.
But you're saturated, so
So
you're
go
gonna get
ahead,
a
yeah,
different
you
rate
could.
now, and you can measure it now, and you
could.
could measure it again this summer,
I don't know if the site is ever not saturated.
It doesn't seem that way.
Doesn't
it's
really,
gonna-
no.
probably perk way differently though, I would say, in
Yeah,
a month,
right.
you know, when we get into the drier part of the,
Or
when we get out of
construction
spring.
gets done and you don't have puddles everywhere, or
Yeah.
Well, and in all actuality, when all the sod and grass is back, that does mitigate,
Helps too.
slow, yeah, absolutely.
Slows everything.
It does slow it.
So Diane, do you want them to do that test, or you want them to wait, or what?
I think in the meantime, if we get a rain event, we should start taking a look at it. see
I wanna do it,
Okay.
yeah, I wanna do it.
All right, what else?
So I pulled the manholes yesterday and they were 2 foot below the overflow, so. In
That's a
few
data
days,
point.
if we don't have rain, I can, you know, I did snap pictures yesterday and then, let me take a look at them. If it's dry at the end of the week, see how much it's dropped.
Monitor it.
Yeah,
Okay, appreciate that.
Thanks, yeah, I think we need
Is that
to,
the
we
one?
gotta stay on top of this, we can't
The
be having
north?
flooding basement.
yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's all it does, got on a tangent there.
I think, Rick wanted to talk about, I think we need to have construction meetings every other, and I'd like to have one, even if we have a month of 5.
That's fine.
Let's keep going now, because we're
Sure.
getting, kind of, things are tying up, is that okay?
So 2 more weeks?
Yeah, we're gonna go, keep going. So we're just gonna, and then, Rick wants us to set a time and date to, discuss the mechanical engineer upgrade for the, air, I can't talk.
HVAC.
Yes, thanks.
Yep.
So we could do that at the next meeting, if that's okay.
Next construction meeting?
Yeah, next
Fine.
construction meeting, which would be May,
May 30th.
yep,
So have our construction meeting at 10 o'clock and then 11
yes.
What's at 11?
The
The HVAC.
HVAC,
conversation.
Okay,
So he's
I'll
got
be
a
out of town.
proposal for you guys, and yeah, I think
yeah, he's
that's
gonna have
what
a
that
proposal.
conversation will be about.
I'll be out of town, so is there a way we can push this to when I get back?
He wants to go sooner than later, well, I suppose we can do it the next one after
How
that.
about Tuesday the 6th?
Yeah,
Yep.
so Tuesday, June 6th, we'll have the regular construction meeting and then that HVAC.
Well, that would be 1 week before, since your last construction meeting. You want to
So do we,
That's okay, if
do we
that's all
want
right
to
with
skip
her.
the 30th then for construction?
Yeah,
meeting?
let's have one,
No, that's 2 weeks out. We need to have one.
the 30th, yeah,
Yeah.
let's stay with May 30th,
And then have another one on the 6th?
yes.
Will that be a construction meeting or just the HVAC meeting?
Let's do both, construction and then HVAC, let's do construction at 10 and HVAC at 11. Would that work for you? Yeah, then you're all, you don't have to do some.
I'm nodding my head for Rick, I guess I don't know, but I can check with
Why
him.
don't you check with that and we'll
Yeah.
tentatively plan on
June 6th at
Yeah,
11.
regular
10
construction and then.
is construction.
that. Construction
11
at 10, HVAC at 11.
Got it.
Yeah. And then May 30th, we'll go ahead and have one, and then we've got to stay track so we can keep this, we need to get this done.
And May 30 is gonna be an OAC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I have another thing. Rick's working on that warranty, surety, I don't care what you call it, bond. I'd like that as you get closer to the end, because I do think maybe in the beginning there were some kind of mistakes that we need to protect ourselves for
Sure.
the, okay.
We should probably get that sooner rather than later, Diane. so
He's working
Angela
on
has
it,
a
I want it,
Time to look it over.
yep, and we want our attorneys to look it over, but I'd like that done.
And this is for, just to clarify, this is for the cement.
The ramp.
The ramp. Well,
And
not
I-
just the ramp, it's all cement, whole cement.
And,
That's been done thus far.
and there is some, you guys have really broken some new cement, did you see that? So you'll probably have to
Somebody-
replace a lot of that sidewalk, somebody ran over it and just wrecked
They
it.
looked over it and broke some of the concrete, yeah.
A lot of the side, even the new
Okay.
sidewalk,
Where at?
Over on the east side,
Yeah, kind of northeast areas where I
Yeah.
noticed it.
you have
Northeast.
quite a, at least, it's quite a big chunk that somebody's wrecked it.
yeah, I think they tried to drag that big leftover, and I don't know. I think.
Maybe don't fix it until.
It's
Yeah,
sticking in the
let's don't
ground 3
fix it.
foot, it's gonna
Let's
crush
fix it at
concrete.
the
You
end.
think?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
shouldn't do any more cement at all.
No,
until
let's wait
we're
until
done.
we're
We haven't
almost
done
done.
any cement for a long time, other than that patch piece and stuff.
Yeah,
All
'cause-
right, where are we at on the agenda here, Rich?
It's your turn.
Our turn, okay, I think we've talked enough, unless anybody has anything else.
Well, what about the perimeter sidewalks on the outside, next to the street?
When we're done, we're gonna assess on how much we're gonna do.
Okay,
And it might be a point that there's so much to replace, you replace it all, I don't know.
some of it, I'm concerned, is kind of dangerous.
I know it is.
And now that they're here, I don't know, we'll have to think about this.
I think if we get close. once
That'll
we
be
get
like the
close
last,
enough.
one of the
Last minute
steps
thing that we've got to think
we'll have to
about.
go around and assess that.
Yeah,
I want to thank you, Greg, for bringing Jeff on board, because I've seen tremendous strides.
So have I.
in this time with
Thanks,
Jeff
Jeff.
being here, and I greatly appreciate it.
and things are moving very quickly, thanks. Wish you'd have been here about 2 years.
And
But I
gone six,
can't
and gone
fix
6
that.
months ago?
Yeah, yeah.
Looks like the concrete patching on the porticos is pretty much done,
Yeah, they've done all the demos, so.
and they got cleaned up pretty good, it looked like.
Yeah, I think so.
Does a lot of work.
What is that?
The patching compound
That
or
is the stinkiest stuff
concrete?
you know, what is it?
It's epoxy
Oh, it's
patch.
is that what
Yeah,
it
there's
is?
Yeah.
two different, yeah, if it's bigger or smaller down to thin, there's two different products, but it's probably the epoxy you're smelling.
And he's kind of skilled, that looks really difficult to work with, is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Scrivener's doing the
Doing a
patching
really
too.
good
Yeah,
job.
Scriveners are doing it. He is a really precise person,
Yeah.
yeah. And if you walk near it, he isn't appreciative. Yeah, he did a really good job.
Do you know when you're gonna have the damage to the column fixed and patched?
I will ask him.
That's on the northeast column under the arch.
When did we get the wall, the arch that's hanging, is that done?
It's done. What it was is when they took it
I
down,
know
the piece
the
fell and chipped off the,
Yeah, I know, quite a long time ago.
a month ago.
All right, anything else? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Do you have another meeting, Phil?
I do not, I gotta take my dad to, our blood draw. Heather, I just got an email invitation to a meeting tomorrow at 2:00.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't had a chance to dig into
Okay,
it.
I don't know anything about that either, but I
Is
can't.
that your, Iowa workforce?
No.
No, this is,
lives,
I met several vendors at the ISAC conference about, website design
Oh,
and
yeah.
Where
improvements,
the-
so,
There's
I've
a
been
thickened slab underneath that only goes
calling
down 12
various
inches.
vendors to kind
At
of
least that's
do
what
an
I think
informal
Roland was
review of what
telling
they can offer and
If we
things
dug
like that to
down
augment our website
that
and
12
that type
inches
stuff.
clear
And,
back, dowel into that,
one,
and just pour a thickened slab
Neapolitan
across
Labs
that whole thing,
is
trying to get some rebar
endorsed
back
by
into the
ISAC,
rubble
they're one of
areas,
the
just to
preferred vendors.
try to hold it.
And I reached out
pouring
and
it
say,
in
hey,
place,
let's
it's
set up a
gonna go
meeting,
back and kind
cause
of
I'd like to see a
lock
little bit
itself
more
in
what you
there.
guys do, and then they said, oh, we've
I
talked
think
to
that might
Jen.
be, and then if you
So
wanted
then,
to,
I said, oh, that's great, you already talked to her, so I emailed her and
you
said,
could even
hey,
take
I'm
that
meeting
thickened slab,
with these
but
folks,
too big,
you
just
know,
water in it.
happy to hear that you've already talked to them,
Even if there's some
can you
stone
join this
stuff,
meeting that we set up?
then
So
you just
I'm
basically
assuming,
stick that
let me-
thing
I
in.
haven't even
Brian,
heard
they
what
want
she
to send
said.
an invite, I said all three of us and every department head,
I mean,
wait a minute, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was just an
Me too,
informal
me too.
conversation with them to kind of see what they do, what they can offer, and I'm gonna be meeting with several other vendors, not just them. So I'm not comfortable going forward with
Yeah,
one company. This is something the board
so
needs
that
to
John
do.
Boyd,
I
Did
wanna
you
be
reach
able-
out to any local?
I have not
Website
talked to
design?
our structural engineer
no,
about that thickened slab idea,
these
but
are,
I think
what I
that'd be
did
way
was, is
easier.
these vendors that I talked to
then-
at
and then,
ISAC
you know,
conference,
we
and
just
then I've
call
also
it
talked to
good.
other counties. And I've actually called 5 different vendors. So what I wanted to do is kind of get an idea of
Yeah,
what they can offer.
yeah.
Come to you guys, say, hey, what do you think about this? Do you wanna meet with any of these
Saw the second
people?
photo especially.
this is just-
I think this
Rubble
preliminary
behind
stuff
it,
should
the
be you and
portico,
Jen.
and I was like,
Yeah, so I,
right.
And then
I can ask
so
questions
Do we
that,
do an RFP then, or?
That's why I like
doing
the
it.
idea of just doing
I
that
would
thickened
run
slab
everything
back.
through Jen and you could weed
It's
them
sitting on a mound
down.
of rubble.
Well,
It's
what
gonna
I
kinda
wanted to
just
do is
glue
kind
it
of-
all in and
I
give
wanted
us
to kind of get an
something steady to
idea
go up from.
and talk to them, and then invite Jen when we have meetings after that. And
So
kind
you
of-
can find out if, is this even feasible?
Trying to tie
Right,
that in.
Because
and-
if it's gonna be
It's not gonna-
$100,000,
Right,
no
it's
sense
just
doing
like,
an
I
RFP.
kind of wanted to
So,
weed them out ahead of time,
Wanna look at
narrow it down
a
to meet
mock-up
with you, meet
on the
with Jen,
traffic
with them,
stuff
and then say,
Go
hey,
pick
can
two
you guys
windows.
say, hey?
for
Yeah,
the.
why don't you and Jen kind of do the reading out on that? See if it's even a feasible thing.
Okay, well, what, if you wouldn't mind, letting her know that,
I'm just not
you
sure
say,
what we'd
hey,
be looking
you
at, because
two
I
work
don't know
together,
about the
come up
window.
with a game
Sure.
plan.
So an invite came from some guy I don't know, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even have a chance to read that.
It's
And
fun.
I didn't pay a lot of attention because it looked like a forward, so I
Yeah,
didn't.
so, okay, so I'll get with Jen on that, so that's kind of the game plan.
Do you wanna get with
So
Jen or
I
you
guess
want
we're gonna
us
go
to
look at
tell Jen
windows
she's
and
gonna work
then
with
that
you?
mock-up.
If you wanna send her a quick email,
That'd be good.
that's fine, and
Well,
I'll just work
anything
with
else?
I
her.
don't want to be in the middle though.
I'll
Just
take-
mock it and then.
I'll take care of it,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the game plan, because some of the things they offer are pretty cool.
Oh, I know, Dodge is pretty cool out there.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
on the sides.
So I wanted to see if there's
So is that
anything
the
that we
PR
could
that
do
was-
that perhaps
There's a,
also to solutions.
So this is just.
No, there's certainly room for improvement on that.
So solutions helped me yesterday, this is curious. I cannot maneuver the Excel spreadsheet for evaluations. So Jen helped me. Doesn't
I
work.
think there's certain fields that work.
No, he said, I have an over 20-year-old that they're sending
oh,
me
watch that on windows.
Excel, and the computer won't recognize it, and it shuts my computer down, and I can't do anything, I can't even turn it off.
So Jen
Called
needs to
bonus
update your
1, 2, 3.
license then.
No, he thinks it's that spreadsheet, there's something
Nice
on the
meeting you.
spreadsheet
Yeah.
that my computer is
Down.
no
protecting.
problem. I
That's
live in
weird.
Indianola,
It's
so,
very
well,
weird.
actually, out by Lake
So I had
Coffee
a
out in the
horrible
country.
Yeah, Phil Tester.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, be on site.
I